In this episode of Wizards of the Tower Roleplay, the end before the end, campaigns that never get to be finished.
On Wizards of the Tower.
Welcome to Wizards of the Tower Roleplay. I'm Delaney.
And I'm Tom.
And in this channel, we talk everything role-playing, tabletop, and possibly even computer role-playing. And we may even get to some other types of gaming in the future.
Yeah. Now, Delaney, this is a subject that we talk about an awful lot, okay? Because you've been gaming a long time, and I'm still sort of a newbie. But we've been involved in a lot of campaigns, so why is this always a concern of us? Why is the end before the end always a concern when it comes to campaigns?
And I'd argue that Tom's not a newbie because he started in 2006, 2007, 3.5. But anyway, the end before the end and why campaigns never seem to be finished. Campaigns that run out of steam, adventures that run out of steam.
Yeah.
We've had a ton of them.
Sure.
In all the times that we've been gaming together, there has been a ton of them. In fact, even long before I met Tom, campaigns just seemed to peter out. And why did that happen? Well, the number one reason is people move away, jobs, conflict within the group. That happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, groups start out with the best of intentions. They really do. Everybody gets together and they make characters up and they come to, and then their first time they play is always really kind of like a party. You know, everybody gets to know each other. We get to talk about our experience and everything like that, and it starts looking pretty good, you know. Everybody wants to commit. You know, you've got 5 or 6 people sitting around a table. You got a DM. You want to commit. You start playing, and it seems like, wow, this is pretty cool. You know, we're having fun. First level characters, you know, we're kicking some monster butt, and we're, you know, making our way down the journey. And by the second or third episode, you know, it's still kind of going okay. This, you know, second or third instance of playing. When it gets to about the 4th or 5th time, things start to stagnate a little bit, because then people start coming up with excuses why they can't come to the game. And it's usually something like family. My mom's in town. My sister's in town.
I decided I wanted to go to gamble.
Yeah.
Or I decided I'm going to go play a hockey game instead.
Yeah. Like all these commitments. Hey, I really like the game, but can I skip this one because my best friend's in town? And it's like, okay, sure. I mean, people get visits from friends and stuff. It's no big deal, right? Then around the 5th or 6th or 7th event, things start deteriorating pretty quick. You get people who start acting out in the game. They start arguing a lot. They become kind of fractious with not only the DM but other players. Especially if there's been some near-miss kills, you know, some people who just barely survived. There's some instances like that, and you know, it can lead to some friction within the group.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I can't think of too many campaigns that I've ever played in that ever got to finish. I can think of one.
Only one campaign I've ever played in we've ever finished.
And that one, the
that's
DM,
sad, folks. That's sad.
Well, considering since I started in 79, you know, I remember an old Dwarven campaign that got started. That one never got to end. There was another one in Forgotten Realms, that same DM that was doing the Dwarven one. Bunch of new players. That one never got to end. There were a bunch that I started that were in 2nd edition, that campaigns that were canned, that never got to end. The party would just break up. People would, you know, I can't make it this week, and I can't make it this week, and I can't make it this next week, and oh, I've got something going on, and it just dissolves. You know, people kind of go their own way, and pretty soon you kind of get tired of it, and everyone just says, I'm too busy, I don't have time, or or I've got a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend, and or I'm getting married, and their spouse doesn't want them to game, so it ends it. I remember one campaign, it was actually with my boys, and it ended because when we were gaming it at my place, this is long before I met you, and my boys were, I think they were 10 years old at the time, and they were good little players. And they would, as long as we were playing at my house, it was okay. And one time we decided to go to somebody else's house and play. We got there and were told that my boys were not welcome. That they would make a mess of the place, even though they were quiet. And the person had bunches of cats and dogs and birds and everything else. And then they finally, I was pretty upset. I left and got a call and said, well, hey, we'll put plastic on the chairs. And I'm like, no, you kind of blew it. And so that campaign ended just like that because of, conflict. Because one person's spouse did not want my boys in their house because they felt that my boys would make a mess.
Now, I brought a demonstration, some visual aids, and let's move this over there, Delaney.
Take Tom's fidgety feather.
Yep.
This magical item is the fidgety feather.
Yeah.
Whoever owns it or has it in their grasp will fidget with it.
Yep.
It's a cursed item. It's a cursed item.
Cursed item. One of my things I do when we play is I always have journals. I always write journals because, as everybody knows, you have to keep track of loot, adventure, character, stuff like that. You always have to have a record of what's going on. Okay.
I, as a DM, actually turn to Tom's journals if there's something that I've missed or forgot in my notes.
Yeah,
I forget.
I always write them up. So, I brought a visual aid. These are my journals that I've written for most of the campaigns we've been on, not all of them. Now, not a single one of these campaigns have been finished ever.
This is the current one.
Okay. So,
which you can kind of see there's where he's at in that one. How many pages?
You can see. I show everybody, how I write. There it is. That's all I write about what's going on. Okay, here's a snippet. The Beast, innocent by investigating the crime scenes and the witnesses. We had to move to Dr. Brada's place first. The Beast is accused of burning the hospice and killing the patients therein.
Carrying crown.
We talked to Carl, the blind caretaker, who states that the Beast was seen fleeing from the burning hospice. So I write all these stories down, all these scenarios, and I have to keep track of them because what I found is virtually no one else ever keeps track of what's going on in the game. These are all unfinished campaigns, folks. Every single one of them. And that's the problem with unfinished campaigns. You just never get satisfaction out of finishing them up.
I think this is one of my favorite ones.
And that is one of the biggest issues when it comes to the end before the end. Why in the world can't, people stick around long enough to finish a campaign?
Oh, this is an Aces and Eights one.
That's Aces and Eights. Yep, that's a different role-playing game. So, I'm going to be a heretic. Feel free to get mad at me, send me mail about it, whatever you want to do. I'm going to be a heretic. And I'm going to say outright right now, it is perfectly fine with me to level every time we play. First time we play, first level. Second time we play, second level. No matter what you do, no matter what XP you get, whatever, you level every time you play. And you know why? Because most campaigns end at 8 or 9 playing events, and no one ever gets to play anything beyond level 5. So if you leveled every single time, the most you could do is play 20 times. And I can count on my hand, this one hand, how many campaigns we played in over 20 times. Most of them peter out after 7, 8, or 9. And that's it. You don't see anybody anymore. They never show up.
I would disagree with Tom on the leveling thing. There are instances where incremental leveling, it's like, okay, you've done this much and now you get to level. We've done some of those. In fact, one of the campaigns that petered out was that way.
We played a campaign where we played 7 times and didn't level. he said he was going to level
Oh,
at the
yeah.
end of it all.
Yeah.
And then he stops the campaign because he wants to move to 5e instead of continuing with Pathfinder. And then he says, and then he just picks up and leaves us all sitting there after playing 7 times. We haven't even leveled.
You can hear Tom's pretty passionate about
So-
that. And I, as a DM, would argue about that. There may be instances now in the campaign that I'm running, I tend to give a little bit more experience points. I think Tom really enjoys that. They're
You do.
leveling a lot faster.
Yeah,
Because
she
I'm
does.
trying to get,
She does.
I'm trying to get to a quicker end instead of just so much. I, as a DM in my campaigns, and this kind of peters off a little bit what this is about, but I don't give just for killing off monsters or succeeding in the quest for the day, but I also give them for my players. If you write a journal and you post it on our website or in the books, for instances, I give you experience points for that every session, and I've got 2 players that do it.
Well,
Tom
you're
and
the,
one other guy.
you're the exception
Yeah.
to the rule.
And then I also
Okay.
like to give experience points if somebody role plays really well.
Yeah, and that's happening.
Or comes up with a really great idea, or is heroic within the adventure.
Yeah.
But campaigns that peter out, it's a frustrating thing.
The thing is like, journal makers love me because I got a stack of journals here and I buy a new one for each campaign. And these aren't even all the ones they've gotten. Some would just ended up in like chintzy notebooks or scratch pads or legal pads or whatever and ended up getting thrown away. These are the one I've kept because the campaign meant something to me one way or the other. And it's frustrating. It really is. And I can almost tell when it's going to happen because people start getting argumentative and fractious within the group.
Yeah, which is an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate thing.
The last group that we actually had, the DM who was leveling us just because decided that, well, one, we're not going to get into it, but it became to be a conflict
Yeah,
between personalities, which
Yeah.
was unfortunate.
It was.
And but it happens. We've had people who are in the military. Of course, they move away. We've had people in our group who got jobs out of state, or we had one player who'd been with us since the beginning who had a new job and had to start working on the gaming day, and then he just kind of faded away.
and then we've had people who just don't show up, and you never hear from them again, and that's it.
And then there's a few people that we've let go.
Yeah, we have kicked a few people out of the group. And we'll talk about that later when we talk about unsavory characters in your game group. I'm sure a lot of players in game groups can talk a lot about unsavory characters.
So I think we'll end that episode of campaigns that never get to be finished, the end before the end, on this episode of Wizards of the Tower. Roleplay. And may all your adventures be epic, and keep on role-playing.
Thanks, folks.